May the beautiful sound of murmuring happy people continue after the service in coffee hour. Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome everyone to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be, know that you are welcome. I'm the Reverend Meter, this congregation's lead minister, and I'm thrilled to be with you on the last Sunday of winter. You hear that? To mark the occasion, we've asked Kayoki Whiteduck, Ajaski's lead food warrior, to be with us once again for the service of celebration of the coming Spring Equinox, the promise of the season of rebirth, and the wisdom from the elders who have called this land home for millennia. Ajaski will join us again to mark the autumnal equinox as well, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. This morning, we are joined by our worship associate Lisa, our interim music director Kirk, and other musicians organized by our inevitable, wonderful Mary Ella Kabusik. Let me say right off at the start that the second hymn printed in your program is listed there because of my own error. We'll save it. It's a very lovely tune. We'll save it for another day. Our young children are downstairs once again this morning, yet we are here in this space together. So let us sing together once more. Please rise as you are willing and able as we begin with singing Ancient Mother, number 1069 in your teal hymnal.
And we'll be singing this 4 times through. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears.
Thank you to the singers for that beautiful song. Good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Lisa, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. Whether you are taking part in this worship celebration from your home or wherever else you may be, wherever you may log on, you are welcome here. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabeg territory, and that the work of reconciliation is the responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and to all those who have a willingness to understand, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this protracted pandemic. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email, welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Or if you're right here in Worship Hall with us this morning and you would like more information about FirstU, it is available at the welcome table at the back of the pews, and Carol is there today to answer any questions you may have. And now here is Casey from our board to highlight announcements for today. Casey?
Good morning, everyone. We'd like to give a shout out to all the staff and volunteers who have been facilitating the Coming of Age overnight retreat this weekend, and the volunteers who have been delivering the Our Whole Lives class downstairs. We also really appreciate those who are hard at work downstairs during our Sunday services, like right now. FirstU wants you to learn how to operate the elevator. Yes, you. As part of the elevator license, only trained operators will be able to access the keys for the elevator. So it's in our interest to have as many of you trained as possible. But it's really easy, and details are in the EUU and on our website. As a reminder, there will be a special congregational meeting to vote on the master concept plan for our campus development. The meeting will be next Monday, March 27, at 7 p.m. on Zoom, and registration for voting will begin at 6:30 p.m. If you're a member and you cannot attend, the deadline to designate a proxy to vote for you is this Friday at noon. Materials related to the meeting, including the proxy form, are on the member page of our website. And as an aside, nobody's asked me to be their proxy yet. The Renewal Task Force is hoping that you can fill in a brief 3-minute survey about volunteering. I've done the survey, it's really only 3 minutes. They want to know what you already do and what your interests and restrictions are towards volunteering. Don't worry, there's no hidden obligations to this survey. You can reach the survey by clicking the big red button in this week's EUU, and thank you in advance for all those who do. And finally, we're excited to announce that the registration is now open for the National Canadian Unitarian Council Symposium that will be taking place here in Ottawa over the May long weekend. Please see the EUU for a link and, of course, for more information. And do we have Donna for weekly Environmental Action Group announcements?
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Bowen-Willer from the Environmental Action Group. And as Eric mentioned, this is the last Sunday in winter. Tomorrow at 5:24 p.m., when the sun crosses the equator, it will be directly above neither north or south. And despite further expected snow, it's at least intellectually satisfying to appreciate the ever-growing daylight and to recognize it as the first day of spring. And moreover, April the 11th is National Pet Day. Ha, you didn't know that. And between the equinox and National Pet Day, we're going to look at weekly actions which can help to reduce our pets' environmental paw print. So see the Enviro Action section. Other high points, check out the deep dish dialogues and a chef's approach to food waste. And have you figured out who Madison Dick is yet? For those of us who are going to fight against Bill 23, there's a protest shaping up at City Hall on Wednesday the 22nd. So check out the climate action page, all that information there. And thanks to those who encourage the more rapid implementation of a stronger set of ZEV or ZEV regs, your planet will thank you. And so does the EAG.
We encourage everyone to sign up to the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, to check our Facebook and Instagram pages, and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, though as global health challenges continue, many of our activities are still taking place online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are a part of our spiritual community. Welcome.
Thank you, Casey, Donna, Singers, Kirk. To begin our morning's reflection on the ways of renewal and the wisdom of our elders, we'll add our chalice to these words by Angela Herrera. Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards, and the world needs your vision. Bring them with you and your joy and compassion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your power to heal. There is work to do, and we have all we need to do it right here as we have gathered together. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together. And at this time each week, we pause in our time together in recognition of both joy and the sorrows of our lives and across the globe. We honor our celebrations and challenges by placing a stone in a bowl of water. They're not too difficult to move, but you can't see it. So we'll leave it there. A stone in a bowl of water, the ripples will continue far beyond our ability to notice them. And it's easy, actually, to imagine them expanding past the edges of the bowl, out through and beyond our pews, out through and beyond the walls that hold us together in community, out to the world at large. A stone of joy this weekend, it splashed. For the coming of age retreat, yesterday, last night, and this morning, they invited me to have dinner with them, and over chocolate ice cream bar dessert, they asked me questions, really good questions like, Reverend Eric, How are your beliefs now different from the ones you had when you were our age? Good questions like that. It made me think and reflect, and I'm grateful. We have stones of sorrow this morning as well. A 20-year-old member of our friend, 20-year-old friend of our community, Josephine, has been diagnosed with lymphoma and is in hospital now receiving chemotherapy. Mandy, another friend of our congregation and sister to Matilda, died earlier this month. She was in her 96th year. And we're thinking of our Mo as she recovers at home now following a recent heart procedure. Caring cards for Mo and Matilda are at the back of the hall at the caring table for us to sign. Even if you don't know them or their families, this is a way, signing a card for them is a way to extend our care to those who have impacted our religious community in small and large and profound ways. A stone, finally, as always, for the joys and sorrows that remain currently in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. Let us join together now in a few moments of stillness and reflection before Kirk brings us together once more with the gift of music.
Our reading for this morning is from Richard Wagamie's book, One Drum, Stories and Ceremonies for a Planet. In the book, Richard Wagamie draws from the foundational teachings of the Ojibwe tradition, the grandfather teachings. Unfortunately, he had only completed his work on 3 of the 7 teachings before his untimely death in 2017. The reading is from the introduction to the book. My people say that none of us can claim the right to a spiritual way. The word spiritual itself means of the spirit. We are all spirit. We are all energy. The truth is that there is a fire that burns at the invisible center of all of us. It is lit by the embers of those tribal fires where we used to sit and feel a yearning deep within us. That yearning is another gift. It is a calling. It is our intuition. It is our most ancient voice speaking to us. When there was no language, our ancestors communicated with it. So when we learn to hear it and respond to it, intuition asks us to travel inside ourselves, to sit in the warmth of that ancient and eternal flame. We all carry those embers. No matter what life throws at us, no matter the pain and suffering and abuse we may have endured, that tiny flame flickers in the deepest change of our being. It is sacred and eternal. When we allow a sense of wonder to inhabit us, something magical and universal happens within us. We feel something of the spirit flickers to life in us, and we feel spiritual. Within that elevated spiritual feeling, we begin to believe we can transcend our difficulties and old pain. We can. We seek out ceremony to help us rekindle that sense of awe and wonder and hope. We attend ceremonies in churches, mosques, temples, meeting houses, gurdwaras, jinjas, fire temples, and kingdom halls. We also attend them in yurts, igloos, teepees, kivas, and wigwams. No one way is the definitive one. Each way is merely a path toward the fulfillment of our common dream, communion, aligning personal energy with earth energy, universal energy, and ultimately, eternal energy.
Thank you, Eva. And with that, welcome Kayoki once again.
Hello? Okay. Kwe, and hello everyone, and thank you for having me here today. I will be speaking today about the 7 grandfather teachings of the Anishinaabe culture, but first I would like to give a brief update about the Ajashki project. As some of you may know, I have been leading the Ajashki project since it began 2 years ago. In that time, the project has really taken off into something bigger than I had originally anticipated. What I thought would be just about growing food is now about food security, food systems, climate change, mental well-being, promoting Indigenous culture, art, and so much more. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with Ajashki, let me explain what we've been doing. A typical day starts with us having our morning tea and a small bite to eat, and we have our morning check-in, where we say one positive thing about the week. Next, we go into the volunteer room to work on the upkeep of the aeroponic growing systems, or the grow towers for short. In the grow towers, we're currently growing lettuce, kale, chard, arugula, and some herbs, as well as we are also starting our plants for our summer garden outside. In the spring and summer, we go outside to the garden to get our garden chores done before the midday heat sets in. We then make lunch with some help of our future food warriors, which are our participants of the program, and volunteers. Our lunches have been getting increasingly intricate and delicious. Our afternoons are always different depending on what we are currently working on. At the moment, we are working on art projects for a grant we received from Crime Prevention Ottawa that includes, are on themes that include food security, homelessness, anti-hate, and systemic barriers. Through this grant, we have also been doing a series of workshops by artists to showcase their art and craft and to better guide us in making our own projects. Now I will be moving on to the 7 grandfather teachings of the Anishinaabe culture. The 7 grandfather teachings are the principal characters that each Anishinaabe should live by. They are as follows: love, respect, humility, courage, truth, honesty, and wisdom. An animal represents each teaching, and I have prepared a slideshow. Oh, there it is, perfect. To better explain each teaching and their meaning. I have also included the Anishinaabe translation for each teaching, and I'm going to ask everyone to try to say it with me. And the translation is presented in my dialect of my home community of Kitigan-Zibi. I will also relate the teachings, each teaching, to gardening, or jashi, or food security, because that is what I teach. So going to the next slide. There it is. So the first one is love. In Anishinaabe, we say, "Sagi Yidawin." Right, everyone try to say it at the beginning. Perfect, that's great. Which is unconditional love between one another, including all of creation, human and non-human. Unconditional love meaning love for all beings without any strings attached. The eagle represents love because he has the strength to carry all the teachings. Just like food, everyone is deserving of love. The picture of the heart icon, in case anyone didn't realize this, is actually 2 human hearts put together to make that symbol. Next slide, please. Respect. In Anishinaabe, we say, "Manaji Idawin." Say that? Very good. To go easy on one another and all of creation. Respect is represented by the buffalo. The buffalo gives every part of his being to sustain the way of human life. The buffalo represents the balance and needs of others. This can be related to the 7th Unitarian principle, to respect for all living things and their interdependent web of all existence. When gardening, farming, or producing food, I believe you should have respect for all living things, including the animals that may try to eat your garden. The picture I chose is of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. She has a very famous song called Respect. And to quote the song, "R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me." Next slide, please. Humility. In Anishinaabe, we say, "Tabase Nindizawin." Everybody say it? You guys are doing very good. I know they're quite long words, some of them. To think lower of oneself in relation to all that sustains us. Humility is represented by the wolf. The wolf lives for his pack, and the ultimate shame is to be an outcast. When gardening, it is good to remember that you one day will be returned to the soil, earth, and may be but soil, so it is good to be humble. The picture I chose for humility is a quote from C.S. Lewis. "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less." Next slide, please. Perfect. Courage. Sanged de Dizawin. What we say? To live with a solid and strong heart. Courage is represented by the bear. The mother bear has the courage and strength to face her fears and challenges while protecting her young. To face life with courage is bravery. It takes courage to start organic farming or gardening because we are not in control of the elements, the weather, the animals, or anything else that prevents us from eating the food we have grown. But we do it anyways. The quote I chose for courage is from Nelson Mandela, which I really enjoyed this quote. "I learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Next slide. Truth. The next one is truth. Tubwewin. Can we say Tubwewin? Perfect. To speak only to the extent we have lived or experienced. Truth is represented by the turtle, as the turtle was here during the creation of earth and carries the teaching of life on its back. As a leader of a gardening program that teaches, I must be mindful of what I speak to those who would learn from me and make sure what I say is true and correct. This picture of here is of the National Truth and Reconciliation Day, which takes place on September 30th. Before reconciliation, there must be truth. Next slide, please. Perfect. The next one is honesty. Tibwe. To live correctly and with virtue. Honesty is represented by the either the raven or the sabe. The sabe is kind of like a mythical creature like the Sasquatch. They both understand who they are and how they walk in their life. We have to stay truthful to our beliefs on how we produce food and not be corrupted by money like Monsanto or other large food companies that would poison food. The picture I have chosen for honesty is of a child who broke a lamp, and they are being honest with their father about breaking the lamp. Next one, please. So last, but certainly not least, is wisdom. In Anishinaabe, we say, Kagita Wendamawin. Yeah, I'm doing very good with the pronunciation. To live with vision. The beaver represents wisdom because he uses his natural gift by altering the environment for his family's survival. This picture here is of my grandmother, who is a respected elder in my community. To be an elder, you must follow and practice the 7 grandfather teachings. She's speaking to a large crowd at the National Arts Center. Part of wisdom is listening, especially to the elders when they speak and learning from them, because elders hold a mountain of knowledge. It is by listening to my father speak that I even got into gardening in the first place. He spoke about what his father had taught him about gardening to me, and now I find myself teaching others about gardening and fighting against food security. So that was the last one. If you're here in person, I will be in the volunteer room after, helping with the produce we have and showing how to properly harvest from the grow towers. So if you'd like to say a hi or anything, don't be a stranger. I'll be right there, and come on, say hi. Miigwech, and thank you for having me.
I hear the voice of my grandmother's calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, stand in your power, women, stand in your power. Listen, 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 listen. May the rivers all run wild. May the mountains go unspoiled. May the air be pure, may the trees grow tall. May there be love for every mother and child. May there be love for every being on the earth. I hear the voice of my grandmother's calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, give birth, give life, mothers give birth, give life. Listen, 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 listen. May the rivers all run wild. May the mountains go unspoiled. May the air be pure, may the trees grow tall. May there be love for every mother and child. May there be love for every being on the earth. I hear the voice of my grandmother's calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, wake up, children, wake up, wake up. Listen, 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 listen. May the rivers all run wild. May the mountains go unspoiled. Stand in your power, people. Stand in your power. Listen, listen. Listen, listen. May the rivers all run wild. May the mountains go unspoiled. May the air be pure. May the trees grow tall. May there be love for every mother and child. May there be love for every being on the earth. I hear the voice. Listen, 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 listen. I hear the voice. Listen, 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 listen. I hear the voice. Listen, 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 listen. I hear the voice. Listen, listen.
Listen, listen. Singers, thank you. Kayoki, thank you. Kayoki, I missed something in what you said. What was the animal, the buffalo? What wisdom teaching was that associated with? I'm looking for the source. I understand. Respect. Driving my rented little van with my friend Todd, who could not drive, but who kept me awake as I moved from St. Paul, Minnesota to Berkeley for seminary, Berkeley, California. We stopped the first night not far from Wall, South Dakota, and in the Badlands. I had no money, and so I found us a little spot. There was a loop road on a plain that was barren, and we camped under the stars that night. I did not want to set up a tent because it was a clear night. I wanted to see the stars overhead. And at night, it was just a clear, flat little area. And when I woke Todd up and said, "Hurry, we got a long way to go today. Have to get there in time, have to get there in time." And the sun was just beginning to rise. And as we drove out, I realized there were all these boulders that hadn't been there before, the night before. I didn't remember them. Until as we were driving slowly out, one of those boulders raised its head and licked its lip. They were bison. Respect is the word, was the word. And as carefully as we could, as quickly, as carefully as I could, we got out of there and went to a really good cheap breakfast at Wall Drugstore. Sorry, that was something I couldn't help but tell. But seriously, Kayoki, we've talked about what you were going to say, and you sent me a copy of your slide deck. And I was reminded of a couple months later, one of the courses I took in my first term in seminary was Native Ways and Wisdom by an elder woman from one of the desert nations in the American Southwest. I apologize to you and to her because I'm not remembering which nation she was a member of. But she taught the class a bit of native wisdom, and sometimes, at least for me, it's the simple things that you remember. What I remember is her way of being, her openness, her humor, that she said in trying to navigate both native time and white people time, she learned that the best thing to do was to arrive an hour early to everything. And when I encountered her at the Oakland airport a couple years later, she practiced what she preached. And we talked about that. But the other lesson I remember that she taught our little class was the native wisdom in how you eat a strawberry. You eat the whole thing, the red berry as well as the little rough green leaves. Because life isn't just sweet all the time, is it? There are also rough patches. And if you eat the rough little leaves, you're reminded of that. And if you do so mindfully, even that little thing can be practice for when we encounter the rough times in life. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I don't always practice eating strawberries that way. But every time I eat a strawberry, I think of her and that little nugget of wisdom that she left for us. And I do. Thank you, Kayoki, for sharing even a bit of the wisdom from your tradition. That enriches us. But I want to say to everyone here, including myself, including Kayoki, that we do things like this to learn, but it's not about cultural appropriation. I'm not asking us or me or anyone here, any settler, to act in accord with native wisdom. I mean, I think it would be good in many, many ways, but I'm not here to say we're adopting their wisdom principles. I'm not trying to convert anyone. It's about understanding, appreciation, and respect. As Casey shared, the Canadian Unitarian Councils will hold its symposium here in May, and on the worship planning meeting, one of which happened this Friday afternoon, we were talking about what songs we might sing, and the notion of cultural and religious appropriation came up. We have to be mindful. We have to be careful. I think it may have been the Dalai Lama who said, "So you've come to us because you're on a spiritual path. But I want to say to you, if you come from a Christian background, go back and be Christian. Be the best Christian you can be. If you feel that doesn't work for you, fine, but at least consider it." And so I take what you say to us, Kayoki, as an invitation to consider us being the best Unitarian Universalists we can be, the best people we can be. That's how I take the wisdom that you share, and I'm grateful for it. I'm also grateful for the opportunity. I went back and reread a book I had read, but far too quickly, 25, 30 years ago, Vinnie Deloria's God is Red. Has anyone know that book? It was first published in 1972. He revised it 20 years later. I found a lot of wisdom in it I had missed, or at least forgotten the first time around. He talks about the fact that religions change as much as anything in life. And there's this great quote, and this may not be fair for me to share with you because there is a religious dig in here. I just want to say that, a good minister wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do this. I'm quoting, remember, Vinnie Deloria, Jr., that religions change is not a foregone conclusion. To go from Jesus on the hillside advocating the message of the Beatitudes to a cotton bowl filled with Jesus freaks chanting 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, $1, all those for Jesus, stand up and holler, indicates that anything can occur in a religious tradition, end quote. I am reminded of my own mother, who came into Unitarian Universalism and experienced the secular humanist branch of our faith. And later in life, before she died, she considered herself a humanist mystic. She's the only one I know who uses that phrase, who puts those two words together, and I just love it. But every week when we talked on the phone, for over 2 or 3 years, she would say, "Eric, why has our new minister brought Jesus back?" Her minister was a Unitarian Universalist Christian who found truth and source and inspiration in the teachings of Jesus, and that was his wisdom to share. And for my mother, this was a step back, and she couldn't understand why Unitarian Universalists would want to step back. But for her minister, it wasn't a step back at all. And the two of them tried talking about it and had a mediated conversation. They could never come to common ground. And all I could do is say, "Mom, you're you, and your minister Gary is Gary. It is what it is. He's not trying to stop you, is he? No, he's not. Well then." Let me return to Vinnie Deloria once more, and he has things to say, and this really deserves its own sermon or sermon series, so let me just plant a seed here. He writes again, "We stand today at a series of crossroads. We may have lapsed into a prolonged period." He's talking about Western society here, white people's society, culture. "We may have lapsed into a prolonged period of respectable boredom from which we will never recover. The current tendency is to attempt to reclaim the 19th century roots of social existence that can give us a sense of permanency in a world of increasing change. But the stability of that era was at best a mythological memory of a golden age. Our refusal to acknowledge the failures of Western history and our own patriotic effort to make it into a golden age show how pathetic and inadequate our tools for confronting change really may be. Now, it is easy to see the MAGA Republicans in the U.S. and those that want to do something similar here in Canada as the epitome of that. And I would say that they are on one end, but they do not compromise all who are trying to find a center in the past to be renewed, a center that never really existed to begin with. This is one of Deloria's closing lines, paragraphs. "The lands of the planet call to humankind for redemption, but it is a redemption of sanity, not a superhuman reclamation project at the end of history. The planet itself calls to the other being species for relief, i.e., from us. Religion cannot be kept within the bounds of sermons or scriptures. It is a force in and of itself and calls for the integration of lands and peoples in harmonious unity." And while I am in full agreement with that, in understanding and in hope, I want to close this short reflection not there, but with another Indigenous teaching, one that many of you will have encountered from Robin Wall Kimmerer in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass. It is the teaching of one bowl and one spoon, which hold that the gifts of the earth are all in one bowl, all to be shared with a single spoon. She continues, "This is the vision of the economy of the commons, wherein resources fundamental to our well-being, like water and lands and forests, are commonly held rather than commodified. And of course, this is not only an indigenous idea. I remember friends of mine, Franciscan nuns, who blew a 25-year-old Eric out of the water when they talked about how their order had one checking account that all the nuns had access to. You could have anything you wanted. You could write that check, but that means that everyone else would have a little less. There was both bounty and responsibility. That was a better lesson in economics than my father sitting down with me to balance my checkbook ever was. And so I will leave you with that, my friends. In truth, I think we share one much larger bowl than that one. Let us remember to take the bounty one spoonful at a time so that all may be fed. Thank you. Thank you.
This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We've been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else, you are part of this community. To make a gift in support of the work of this congregation, you don't need to use the baskets that are now beginning to make their way among the pews. Wherever you are invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you can make a donation or to keep up with your pledge. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now, please rise as you are willing and able as we join in the singing of O Brother, Son, hymn number 1066 in our teal hymnal.
Please be seated. Before we close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that coffee hour will resume in Fellowship Hall at noon. Immediately after the service. For those watching from home, an informal fellowship hour will begin at noon. You can find the link on our website or in Friday's EUU. And also leafy greens, as Kayoki mentioned earlier, courtesy of the good folks of Ajaski, are available for those who would like some from the grow towers in the volunteer room near Fellowship Hall. As we prepare to extinguish our chalice, let us find inspiration in these words by Ruben Alves. So plant the dates, even though we who plant them will never eat them. We must live by the love of what we will never see. That is the secret discipline. It is the refusal to let our creative act be dissolved away by our need for immediate sense experience. And it's a struggled commitment to the future of our grandchildren and their grandchildren. It's still lit. It may not be visible, but it's still lit. There we go. This morning's chalice is extinguished, but the stark spark of our connections and faith remain. Kirk, singers, will you bless us yet again? As we prepare to leave this space, may our minds be open and our hearts clear. We are people of both reason and hope, of both memory and love. May we also always remain a people of love, providing a place in this world for our spirit, a place that someday fairly we can call home. And now, as we return to the challenge of helping the world come alive in love, let me say, go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.